I wanted to take a moment to give a tribute to one of the greatest singers, performers, I mean, rock and roll singers of all time, and that is Tina Turner. Tina Turner. Tina Turner passed away May 24th, 2023, at the age of 83 years old. She has been dubbed the Queen of Rock and Roll. And I think we all, have even young kids. I think we all know who Tina Turner is, right? Some of us way more than others. But if you don't know, start to know. That's why Spotify, Apple Music, go listen to it. Go listen to her. Go listen to that voice. Go watch her music videos. I highly recommend on HBO Max. There is her 2020 documentary, Tina, just called Tina. And I watched that on Friday night. I thought it was beautiful. I remember I had it in my DVR when it first came out. And it was one of those things, for some reason, I didn't watch it at the time. I probably just watched more Vanderpump Rules. And I was on Friday night, I was like, you know what? Why don't I watch this? And I thought I was going to fall asleep. It was late and I was up. I watched that whole thing. And I had known a lot about Tina's life. Of course, some of that was dramatized in What's Love Got to Do with It, with Angela Bassett, a career-defining, career-making performance that she got nominated for an Oscar for, and Lawrence Fishburne, of course, playing Ike Turner. I'd seen that, but I saw this documentary, and I was so moved. I mean, there were sad moments, but I was also so inspired at her strength. I wanted to just talk about Tina Turner for a second, if that's okay, and then we'll get to Succession and some other pop culture stories. But I think we have to really pause and talk about people who have shaped pop culture, whose stories are a story of triumph. And the only way their stories of triumph is because they've gone through great tragedy in their life and they have come out on the other side. And she just had this beautiful overall story, on top of what an amazing singer and performer. Her voice is it's guttural. It's animalistic, but it's also beautiful. I can't even do it. I'm like, it is just so unique. Nobody was like Tina Turner. And the dances, the moves. She was not a classically trained dancer. She was not a trained dancer at all. Just felt it. She felt it. Wow. Now, I don't know if there's a God. Like, I want to believe in God because my mom believes in God, and I see what strength that gives her. So I want to believe, right? But I don't know. But when you see people like Tina Turner, you're like, that's something that's a higher power. I've talked about that on this show. If you've listened, over the years, I've talked about Prince being that way, or even Beyonce at times. But Prince, when I would see Prince live, I got to see him a handful of times over the years. I just didn't understand it. I was like, oh my God, how is this tiny little dude in heels? How is he doing this? Prince, I love the detours we take, right, folks? Prince, I was watching the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame YouTube, do that too. YouTube is such a great tool. By the way, we're on YouTube now. So Bad It's Good with Ryan Bailey. Go subscribe. You're not going to see anything like Prince, but you will see some weird videos of me eating raw onions. You'll see it if you go there. There's a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I think George Harrison was getting inducted, or maybe the Beatles. And they play an all-star jam. They do that every year at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And they play While My Guitar Gently Weeps, the Beatles song, but George Harrison wrote it into the guitar. Anyways, Tom Petty was singing along with Jeff Lynne, the lead singer of ELO. You had George Harrison's son, Danny, on stage, and then a couple of other gentlemen that I'm not sure who their names were, and then you had Prince. Now they're going through While My Guitar Gently Weeps. While My Guitar Gently. It's just beautiful, right? It's great, great song. And then, guitar. And then they kick it for the guitar solo part. They kick it to Prince. And Prince just fucking wails on this guitar. I mean, he and you guys, you know, I'm gonna do like I do podcasting and like sweat through it. I'm like, oh, this is so hard. You're like, is this guy gonna make it? It ain't a thing for Prince. Doesn't even break a sweat. He's even smiling. He's giving a wink to the audience. Like he is thrashing on this guitar. He's making it make sounds that you can't possibly make with this guitar. And he's doing this. Even Tom Petty looks over. Tom Petty said after that, he said, well, I guess after tonight, we do know who the best guitarist of all time is, and that is Prince. Prince is never usually even credited in that conversation, but Prince is was one of the best guitarists of all time, period. It's just that we knew him for like these little sexy dances and like Kiss, you know, but he could wail on that guitar. So I always thought the hand of God had to be a part of that. But Tina Turner, my personal experience with Tina Turner, I wanted to tell you guys about, you might get a kick out of, was it was the first girl I thought I was in love with in high school. And I lost my virginity to her. That's between us. Do not tell anybody. Cat's out of the bag. I'm not a virgin. I know. It's disappointing everybody. You're like, how? This guy's had sex before? This guy's made love before? So I thought I was in love with this girl. And I think she really liked me. I think I was a good friend. And but I spent a summer trying to woo her. And I think that's why I'm such a weirdo too, is that I always had this thing of like girls I had to fight for a girl to like me because I was always the friend. I was always the friend of, like the housewives you have a friend of. I was always the friend of. I was the good friend. I was the guy friend. And it was awesome because I love hanging out with girls. All my good friends are girls. I was like, because girls just talk about way more fun of stuff. You know, like I'm like Craig. I wanna hear what the girls are saying. Girls just have better taste, just more fun. Guys, I could sometimes just not understand. I understand them more as I get older. But girls is where it's at. And I remember I was working at Petco. The only place, I think I was like 15 or 16. And also this girl was like considered like the bad boy. She was like the bad girl. But I thought she is hysterical. And I just like, wow. And I'd already lost my virginity to her. And I don't think really, it was in the back of this station wagon. My dad's station wagon. We couldn't, this is probably too personal. We couldn't find any place to go. And we end up, oh God, I just remember that. So I remember that. You remember that feeling, you guys? You know, the mixture of fear and excitement and not knowing what the fuck you were doing. Like I had no class. Like, how does this go with this? You know, like I barely can put Legos together. And then after that, I was like head over heels. And she wasn't, but I spent a summer trying to woo her. I don't even think I knew that I was trying to woo her, but I was. And I worked at Petco, and I was like a stock boy at Petco. I'd wear a back brace. And I remember I tried to like rough up my image because I was from Kansas, moving to Arizona, and I was like I was a nerd. I was a theater kid. And I remember shaving my head, like not like bald, but like a Caesar, you know. And I had she took me to get my ear pierced. I had my ear pierced, and I was like, bad boy, dude. That's why I always call myself the bad boy of podcasting, because that shit just doesn't leave, man. Yeah, I had my ear pierced. I'll do it again. I don't care. Actually, I don't want to do it again. It actually hurts. But I remember I had my money saved in my little Wells Fargo account that my mom started for me. And Tina Turner was coming to town. And I was like, you know what? Because this girl loved Tina Turner. She was the one that got me into Tina Turner. Her and my friend Dusty made me watch What's Love Got to Do with It. I knew the soundtrack, Little Girl from Nutbush, all the songs, loved it. And I was like, so Tina Turner was coming to, was it Desert Sky Pavilion? I think it was called at the time. Chris Isaac was opening up for her. I remember that. And so I bought 2 tickets to Tina Turner. And I think in the back of my head, if I remember, I was like, here, I want you to have these tickets to Tina Turner. And in my head, they were 2 tickets. So I was like, she'll obviously invite me for the other ticket. And she took her friend Courtney, and I was friends with Courtney too. I was like, oh, of course, yeah, of course. And I always kick myself because that was my chance to see Tina Turner, and I never got to see her. And But I've been with that girl ever since, and that's who I know. Everything works out the way it's supposed to work out. But I remember that was my Tina Turner entrance point. But she's always stayed with me. She's like part of the fabric of pop culture, I feel. Now, her story really is amazing because she was born in a town called, I think it was known as Nutbush. And her mom and dad left, like took off on the kids. She had a very tough life. And then she was seeing Ike Turner had a band called the Kings of Rhythm. It was like around 1957, 56. And she went up to him and said, "Hey, I want to sing with you." Like, actually had the balls to go up to this guy. He had one of the first, he's credited as one of the first rock and roll singles of all time. I think it was a record called, is it called Box Top? Anyways, he had a band, like the Kings of Rhythm. It was Ike Turner and the Kings of Rhythm, I believe. So he's like, whatever, girl, whatever, girl. And she keeps coming around, and she finally sings, and she's like, the voice comes out. This is somebody with no training. Just think about those moments in your life, folks. Those moments, and we all have a couple of them. Those moments, they're also sliding door moments of, I could have gone this way or I could have gone this way. Those moments where you're like, this is crazy, but I feel like I should do this. And sometimes we walk away from those moments and we always regret it. But Tina was like, which, by the way, her real name was Anna Mae. She was later called Tina. Ike said, "You know what? Tina Turner," because they eventually got married. Tina Turner sounds better than Anna Mae. But she went up and she knocked it out of the park. And he was like, "Damn, okay, you're singing with me," and started singing with this band. And they started one of their songs, their hit duet song, "A Fool in Love." Such a good song. You'll know it immediately. Why she treats you like a dad when you're such a good man. So the duo became Ike and Tina Turner, and they were a huge act. They had hits like River Deep, Mountain High, Proud Mary, Nutbush City Limits. And Ike was the studio man. Tina was the voice. And Ike, obviously, the story, was very physically and emotionally and mentally abusive to Tina. Now, it didn't start off that way, and the documentary goes into that. And finally, Tina got the bravery one time when they were out on the road to fight back one time. And they checked into this hotel because he would also, assault her sexually as well. And she would talk, there was a very pattern. It like, he would hit me, he would abuse me, and then have sex with me. That was this pattern. So she fought back, but then she took him to the hotel room. He fell asleep, and she grabbed her bag and just left and ran out on the freeway across the street and went to another hotel and said, "I have no money. This is my license. I'm Tina Turner. You can take me in." And she left. And this is after years. They had 3 kids together. And a lot of people don't do that. But you think like, wow, okay, she got out of that situation, but she was at a zero in her career. She was nothing at that point. She had nobody even knew what happened. And there was all of these debts piling up because of all the concerts that had to be canceled. And Ike stuck her with everything. And so she was performing anywhere because she was a workhorse. She was doing 2 shows a night at like little shitty clubs. And you would think, oh, she was big at the time. No, but it was different. Like, she was just taking any job. She had no real direction. And, but she had talent. She had that, like, the inner something of like, who is that person? But even when you have talent, and this is what I always tell people, and I've been so lucky to even see this from an actor's perspective, is that you can be the most talented person in the world and you still sometimes don't get the opportunity. Or you get the opportunity and you don't nail it. You don't hit it out of the park. All these things have to line up in life for anything to happen. So she has this talent. She's trying to pay the bill, so she's taking any club gig she can, but she's escaped Ike. She's escaped that. She's also discovered Buddhism during this time, which is wild. And the documentary talks about, there was a manager that that came, or like she did something, and this manager was there, and the manager was like, "Oh, I remember you, Tina. This is great." And she was like, "Listen, I need direction. I need somebody that believes in me. I need help. I don't know how to do this. Help me." And so he went and saw her. I think it was at a club in San Francisco. It was 2 shows. He said the 7 o'clock show, it was good. He said nothing to write home about. It was just okay. And he said he was watching. He's like, I just don't know what I could possibly do for her. She was actually doing like Hollywood Squares at that time, just anything to make a buck, like game show appearances. But then he stayed for the second show at 9 o'clock. This is more of a rowdy crowd. And she just turned it on. Got that whole place dancing. And he was like, holy shit. And so that's the other thing that needs to line up, is you need somebody else to believe in you. And this manager, I'm trying to find his name. What was it? Dave Dixon? No. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry that I'm forgetting this gentleman's name. But he then fought for her. And he fought for her to get a record contract. And at this point, she's 47 years old. You wouldn't know it. Just gorgeous woman. And she gets, I think it was Capitol Records, I believe. Capitol Records gave her a deal, but they couldn't find the right songs. So they had a bunch of songs. It was like, no, I don't know. In fact, her deal at Capitol almost like totally goes out the window because they were restructuring. They were going through their roster of artists, and Capitol Records was like, I don't see, we're gonna leave her. And the guy was like, got down on his knees and said, no, if she goes, I will go. I'm asking you one thing: keep her. And this is based on nothing, and they kept her. And so then they find the song. What is the song? The song is, it's not Private Dancer. Oh, there was a band called the Bucks Fizz. It was like a British band, and they had this song, What's Love Got to Do with It? What's love got to do? Right? Tina Turner's famous song. That's actually a Bucks Fizz song. Nobody knew of it. It wasn't a hit. But somehow that got to Tina, and Tina didn't want to sing it. And they're like, sing it. And it changed everything. Once they had that song, like it started to roll. Then it was like Private Dancer. The album happened. So you had, I'm your private dancer, a dancer for money. And you had Better Be Good to Me. You had David Bowie wanting to work with her. She opened for the Stones. She taught Mick Jagger how to dance, supposedly. But this album went on to sell north of 20 million albums. Albums don't do any kind of numbers like they used to. It's all streaming. But her dream, when she had met this manager, was, I want to sell out stadiums like the Rolling Stones. I want to sell out stadiums like rock bands do, which is a funny statement now because rock bands really are pretty much non-existent for the most part, or at least new rock bands. And so this one album hits, and all of a sudden it's Tina Frenzy. Now, there's a couple of fun pop culture connections here. She also starts to get upset because she does this article for People magazine before Private Dancer, where she finally admits what happened with the Ike Turner relationship and that he was physically abusive. She had not told this story yet to anybody. And so that story came out. But she was also hesitant because she never wanted to be known for that story. She wanted to be known for her talent. She didn't want to be known as the woman that was in a domestic abusive relationship. She was like, that's done. I don't want to have that be part of my story. My story is my talent. My story is now. So she did that. But then, even then, when Private Dancer, when it just took off, when that album took off, there was more and more questions. And so Kurt Loder, the MTV VJ, remember MTV, folks? MTV used to have an amazing news division. Shout out John Norris. He was there to interview her because she did Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, that movie with Mel Gibson back in the day. He went to do an on-set interview, and he was telling the manager of like, you know what, this was great, but she should just actually do a book because people are so curious about Tina Turner. And he's like, I could help her write it, or somebody could help her write it. And they went with Kurt Loder, and Kurt Loder wrote her book, I, Tina. Her autobiography was written with Kurt Loder. And that book was a huge thing as well. But that book also went into the stories. Now you got to watch this documentary because they even, they have her voice recordings talking to Kurt Loder during the interview process for that book. But you guys, then the live touring they toured for it was 3 years. I mean, she was like 50 years old. And you guys, she was selling out stadiums then. She did it. She did it. And they have this footage, you guys, of her performing. And it's just amazing. It's just truly, truly amazing. Now, they have this footage at the, I think, Rock in Rio concert in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And at the time, it set a Guinness Book of World Records for the largest paying concert attendance ever. And you're like, Ryan, 180,000 people. So then I was like, what are the other largest attended concerts of all time? So you got Tina, and now Tina is at, where did she fall to on the charts here? I'm looking at the chart right now. Tina Turner remains, she is 10th. She is the 10th. 11th is Frank Sinatra, also in Rio. Man, they really pack it out in Rio. Frank Sinatra Live, that was in 1980. Tina Turner was January 16th, 1988. Then coming up in number 9, you got Mr. Paul McCartney, 184,000 in also Rio. And then you have a lot of artists I've never heard of. You have Glay in Chiba, did for 200,000. The number 1 is March 2017, Indio Solari in Olavaria, 500,000 people. My God, 500,000 people. Indio Solari. Congratulations, Indio. Number 2 actually is Roger Waters from Pink Floyd. This was in Berlin at the Berlin Wall concert in 1990. There was 350,000 people there. Trying to think of other, then you got 16, you have U2 for the Pop Mart tour in Reggio Emilia, 150,000 there. You have Robbie Williams, you have Kiss, you have Queen, Madonna, Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's highest was 125,000. You have Oasis at 125,000. Oh, and then you have Tom Sandoval and the Most Extras. Yeah, that was 78,000 for Tom Sandoval and the Most Extras. No, it's wild. Remember the Guinness Book of World Records when you were a kid? You'd be like, I'm going to get in that book. I'm going to chew bubble gum for 30 days straight. It was the stupidest. Oh, man. Scholastic book fairs, right? Whew. So anyways, she does this Rio concert. She's touring everywhere, touring nonstop. And she's just she's a legend all of a sudden. And all of that previous work, all of the work with Ike and all of that stuff, it's all back in play. All of that talent. And you should see her work that stage. 50 years old, working that. I couldn't do that. Are you kidding me? Couldn't have done it 20 years ago. Just walking all that stage, over that stage. Just amazing. And then, of course, she just becomes a legend. Everybody loves her. Everybody adores her. She still hasn't found love, though, right? Love has eluded her, and she hasn't really wanted for it either. Also, in 1993, of course, they did the movie What's Love Got to Do with It? Now, there's this brilliant press conference they show footage of with her at Cannes, the film festival, I believe it was. And they're doing the press tour, and it's like her, Angela Bassett, the director, and they ask, Tina, what did you think of the film? And she's like, I haven't seen the film. I'm not seeing the film. And they're like, why? She's like, well, once again, I don't want to relive that abuse. I know what that looked like. And, she was very nice about it. She was always very nice about it, but she didn't want that to define her. And it was great seeing Angela Bassett there. It was a career defining role for her. And Angela Bassett's right next to Tina, just looking at her, and it just amazing. But it was another thing, another part of her legend. This film came out, it did amazing, great, attention. So that happened. She's, did the soundtrack for What's Love Got to Do with It, had a bunch of new songs, went back on tour again. And then she finally, I'm trying to think what year, I'm trying to find the year and who this gentleman is. Okay, yeah. So this, his name is Erwin Bach. Erwin Bach was a German music executive and was 16 years younger than Tina Turner. So they began dating in 19 sorry, she had found love before What's Love Got to Do with It. Sorry. In 1986 they met, and then they started kind of casually, not casual, but started dating. And she was just like, he was just the best. He was the kindest. He wasn't insecure around me. You know, he wasn't intimidated by me or my talent or anything. And he was just the nicest. And I felt like I had a partner. And think about that. For the last partner for you to have is somebody abusive like Ike Turner, who had all these demons. Well, Erwin didn't. And they began dating. And in July of 2013, 27 years later, after they started their relationship, they got married in a civil ceremony, and they lived in Switzerland. They got married off Lake Zurich. And Erwin is in this documentary of Tina, and he just seems like just an amazing man. Now, Tina had dealt with health issues for the last 15 years, potentially. And she was ready to go, she said. You know, she was ready to go, but Erwin wasn't ready to let her go. And so Erwin donated one of his kidneys to keep her alive. And it did. It kept her alive until a week ago. And they had a beautiful love life. You should see their place in Switzerland they had. And she really kept to herself. You know, she had a nice life in Switzerland, but she had been sick for a long time. But then people like Cher would come up and just be with her. Oprah, you know when you have Oprah just hanging out. And her and Erwin, it was just this beautiful love story. She, of course, retired from touring and stuff like that. The Tina Turner musical kind of opened right around COVID. And I think it's potentially on the road or in your town or coming to your town, which I'll definitely be seeing it now. But Erwin is still around, and they are going to turn their home in Switzerland into a Tina Turner museum, I believe. But she died happy. She died at peace. And what a life. What a beautiful, beautiful life. So, as Oprah would say, we speak your name. Tina Turner, we speak your name. That is a life well lived, a life that inspired many, and also just fucking good music. So Anna Mae Bullock, Tina Turner, rest in peace. Okay. Wow. I even go long when it's just me. My goodness. Okay. Succession, huh? You want to get into Succession? My goodness. I'm such a loon. Tom Hanks was at the Shania Twain concert last night. Sorry, I just got sent a picture from my friend Marissa. Also, Taylor Swift in New York. She did all of those MetLife concerts this past weekend, and Ice Spice came out, who is now in the new version of the song Karma in the music video, which is interesting because of comments that her boy Matty Healy said about her. It's very interesting. These women seem to like make up for us men's or mistakes. Who knows if that's the case? But also, I was very excited about the Taylor Swift concert because my favorite, the lead singer of Counting Crows, Adam Duritz, was at the Taylor Swift concert last night. I think Laguna Biatch was there. Lex Nico was there. I wasn't there. Telling you, if anybody in LA has a Taylor Swift concert ticket in LA, I'd love to go. But Adam Duritz was there with the lead singer of Dashboard Confessional. They're about to hit the road actually soon. So I'm excited about that. Whew, okay. Are we ready to talk about Succession? We go from intense Tina Turner, intense Summer House, to intense Succession. Succession wrapped up its 4-season run on HBO Max, or Max as we're calling it. Now, this season had 10 episodes in it. Last season had 9 episodes in it. And I thought this season, it was magnificent. I said, man, if they make this 10th episode as good as the previous 9, they're going to stick the landing. I've not seen 10 amazing, uniquely different episodes of a TV series in so long. It's so hard to do. Of course, they're going to have to go out. You can't keep up this pace. And the big question out there is who was going to take the reins of Waystar Royco? Of course, Logan Roy. If you're watching the YouTube, I'm wearing my rest in peace Logan Roy. Pour one out for Logan, played by the magnificent Brian Cox. He passed away in episode 3 of this season, which was just a great episode. And the show title is called Succession. So we want to know who's going to succeed Logan Roy, the monarch, the patriarch, like the patriarch of the whole family, and a billionaire. Now, Jesse Armstrong created Succession. He's brilliant. He's a comedy writer, a British comedy writer, but he was always fascinated with the family, the Murdoch family. The Murdoch family, of course, owns Fox, all, big conglomerate. He's Australian, real insane family, Rupert. But he has a bunch of kids that all want his, but now Rupert Murdoch's still alive. But also, he was also inspired by a gentleman named Sumner Redstone. Sumner Redstone was the guy that owned CBS and Viacom and National Parks Amusements, all of these companies. In fact, I just read or listened to an audiobook called Unscripted about Sumner Redstone's life and the fight for his power once he passed away, which included his daughter. And I think Jesse Armstrong was inspired by that family dynamic as well. So he was always kicking this idea around. And he came upon, this figure, this powerful billionaire dies in the beginning, and the series about the fight to take his spot. They told Brian Cox initially that he was going to die in the first season. In fact, the first episode, he has a stroke. The first couple of episodes, he's just like, he's just kind of, and you have Kendall Roy, played by Jeremy Strong. You have Logan, of course, Brian Cox. You have Sarah Snook, who plays the daughter, Shiv. And then, of course, you have Connor, the eldest Roy child, who is played by Ferris Bueller's Alan Ruck. And then you have tortured Kendall. Kendall, played by Kieran Culkin. And these are all the people in play for this spot. Not really Alan Ruck, not really Kendall, but he's great comic relief and had some really amazing, beautiful moments this season. So he didn't die, Brian Cox. At the end of the season, they're like, you know what? We're actually going to keep you on. And The Life of an Actor, he was like, great, that's amazing. Fuck yes. So they kept him on because it was so good. He was so good. And the thing about Succession you have to realize is that for me, and I always told people this, my buddy Steve Salgado, I watched the first episode. I tried to watch it like 5 times when it first came out, and I couldn't get into it. And then before the pandemic, I went and visited my buddy Steve in Richmond, Virginia. He has twin daughters, and now he has a son, and his beautiful wife, Brenna, invited me up there, and we were just chilling, and he goes, I'm going to make you watch the first season of Succession. I was like, oh man. And he makes me watch it. First episode, still don't dig it. I'm like, dude, I'm here to watch Succession. Second episode, still don't dig it. Third episode, I'm like, dude, it's so lethargic. And then somewhere around the 4th or the 5th episode, it like clicks. I'm like, oh my God. What is that Tom dude saying? Oh, that's insane. And I'm like, what? And then all of a sudden I was like in love with it. And then I've been back and watched those first couple of episodes, and I've appreciated it more. But it's always like, it's such good writing. It's so good. And the actors are so good. But sometimes it's the plot doesn't even matter sometimes. In the first 2 seasons, especially, it's a little haphazard in, you had the cruise line storyline. You had the sexual abuse storyline from the cruise ship. You had all these storylines. You had Shiv starting off in the political realm. Eric Bogosian is her boss at one point, I believe. It all these other plot lines, but it's just all so rich and so good that it almost didn't matter, because all you wanted to know and wanted to see was this family dynamic. And you saw these actors just bouncing off of each other with this beautiful dialogue. And each season I liked it more and more and more and more. But all good things come to an end. And Jesse Armstrong announced before this season even started that this would be the last season of Succession. And I was like, fuck you, Jesse Armstrong. How dare you? Why can't we have anything good in this world? And I come from the 90s when we would just, hey, shit, you want 40 seasons of Friends? Let's do it. You want 30 seasons of ER? Let's do it. Run this thing into the ground. Like Vanderpump Rules, season 8 and 9 sucked, but I was still watching it. I didn't think they were going to pull back into an amazing 10th season, but they did. But I'm of the motto, and if you listen to this show, I'm the more the merrier, man. I want more. I'm quantity, not quality. Actually, we're both. But I was bummed because I was like, you can keep this going. But the level that they were working, and not even just in the writing, but like I said, the production design, even everything, the detail, it's like you compare that to Yellow Jacket season 2 on Showtime, and it's unfair to even compare because it's just budgetary. It's not even in the same ballpark. With Yellow Jackets, you feel like at this season there are moments of like, do you have a budget on par with Lifetime? I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm trying to say this as a fan. It was weird. On Yellow Jackets, they're in the snow. You can tell they're digitally putting in their breath to make it look like we get it, it's cold, but they're not even good at it. You can just tell over like, okay, put a little puff of breath right here, but they don't they don't do that on a regular basis, so it comes off really sloppy. But you wouldn't see that shit on Succession. They're just working at a very high level with a high budget. So this 4th season, Succession. Now, we were all upset that Brian Cox passed away in the 3rd episode, but you had to do that because you needed the next 7 episodes to find out who would take over Waystar Royco. Now, on top of that, you have Alexander Skarsgård, the big Nordic amazing dude that everybody loves. I love. He's been on everything. HBO especially loves that dude, right? You have True Blood. You had, what is it, Big Little Lies? Was that he was on the 1st season? Just an amazing actor. His dad, Stellan Skarsgård, who is the math teacher in Good Will Hunting. Do you know that? And his brother, was it Bill Skarsgård? He played the clown in It. Isn't that crazy? What a great acting family. But he owns Joygo. Jogoy? He owns a big company himself. He's kind of like an Elon Musk type character, and he is trying to get Waystar Royco too. So they're trying to do this deal, and it is this, who's going to get the company? So what you had set up in the 9th episode is that you had Kendall and Roman. Sorry, Kendall, of course, played by Jeremy Strong, and Roman is played by Kieran Culkin. I think I mixed that up earlier. I'm so sorry. I know some of you guys like to scream at me, but anyways, so they are on one side, even though Roman kind of shit the bed at his father's funeral. When he went to speak, he started bawling, which was a beautiful moment. But Roman is like the biggest shit talker asshole, like smart ass. So you really didn't see it coming. And he's all pervy too. There's an older lady that works for them, Jerry, who's just magnificent. And he like would send her dick pics all the time. I'm telling you, if you don't watch Succession, you got to watch. So it's them trying to get the votes of the board to stop the acquisition by Alexander Skarsgård, who on their side, they have Shiv. Shiv has convinced him to bring her on as the American CEO so she gets to take over her dad's company, but he owns all of Waystar Royco. But with Succession, what's brilliant is each episode, there are so many twists and turns in. Nothing's ever settled. Nothing's ever firm. And especially this finale episode was not firm. It's like a roller coaster. You think everything's okay. Okay, we're going this one track where you're going to get it. And then it changes completely. And it shows you at that level, by the way, that's what I always think. I went to bed last night feeling sad and bad for billionaires. And I woke up going, what the fuck are you thinking, Ryan? Like, are you kidding me? I felt legitimately sad. And I'm like, these people don't care. We're pawns in these people's games. I'm just content, by the way. And I hope someday I can sell my content to the highest bidder, but I'm just content. We're all just content to them. And they're all just fighting. We're just like a chess. They're the big kings and we're just the little pieces on their little game. So it was like, who's going to take it all? So Roman shit the bed at the funeral. He's disappeared, but they need his vote. Kendall needs his vote. Kendall wants to be the heir apparent. Now, Shiv, that's the thing too, is that they're family, but they're a fucked up family. A fucked up family that all wanted their dad's approval and rarely got it. Now, at the beginning of this, we were kind of told that Logan wanted Kendall to take over someday. But then, throughout the season, throughout the seasons, he wanted Shiv at one point. And then most recently, he wanted Roman to take over as well. And they all just wanted the approval of their father, which that's a very common thing. You don't have to be a billionaire to understand that. So that's our entrance point as an audience. But throughout these seasons, Kendall killed a young boy, or Kendall killed a boy accidentally, fucked up on drugs. They're all horrific people. It's kind of like Vanderpump Rules in some ways. There's not like a team Ariana. It wasn't even like Shiv was this great white knight you could root for, because I mean, just the shit she did. Nobody is good on this show, but you like all of them almost. Now, of course, I would be remiss if I didn't mention Tom and Greg. You have Tom Wamsgans, who is Shiv's husband. Shiv is, we find out earlier in the season, pregnant, which is shocking because Tom betrayed Shiv in the season finale of season 3 and told Logan Roy that these people were, that the family was making a move to throw Logan aside. And Tom betrayed Shiv, went to Logan, told them, and Shiv found out in the final episode, and Shiv's face in that scene of like, you betrayed me, even though Tom at first didn't know that Shiv knew. I love this. Now I'm just like gossiping. I'm like, oh my God, you guys, you got to know. It's so crazy. So when we pick up in the first season, they, this fourth season, which is so fascinating. I was reading an interview with Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom, and this guy he's a British actor. How dare you Brits do American so good? Sarah Snook is Australian. How dare you, Sarah Snook? But just amazing. But Matthew McFadden, you know him. What is it, Pride and Prejudice or Sense and Sensibility? Those 2-word old film. Anyways, he plays a stud in that film. Like this guy is a actor's actor, and because Tom is a pussy at first, you think Tom is just like you when he's introduced. He's just such a nerd. He just wants, he would love to be a Logan type character, but you don't think he would ever have it in him. He's a heel. He's a sponge. In fact, he calls himself a pain sponge in this, which I thought was such a fascinating use of language. A pain sponge. Alexander Skarsgård, like, I need a pain sponge. And he's like, that's what I am, a pain sponge. So he is the head of ATN. ATN is the kind of Fox News network that Logan Roy owns. And he's the head of that. But him and Sarah Snook, him and Shiv are not on good terms. They're not living together. They're probably going to get divorced, even though he finds out she is pregnant. But they say the worst awful things to each other in the 8th episode, I think. Brutal. It was like the night before the election, and they just, all those things that you want to say to your partner that you never did and never should, they say it, and it is heartbreaking. And what is the line that he says? He's like, talks about the pain of staying with you. I have to weigh the pain of staying with you with the pain of not being with you. And that the pain of not being with you is less than the pain of being with you. It was just beautiful, that thought. I butchered these beautiful lines, and I'm so sorry. So you come to this thing where, this is the big moment, is that Sarah Snook, Shiv, convinced Alexander Skarsgård to let her be the American CEO. They think they have the votes, and Kendall is trying to get votes to be able to keep this company, to not take their bid for this company, which is very attractive bid. The shareholders would be amazing. It would be golden parachutes for all of the company, Frank, Carl, all these people that have worked for Logan for so long. So they want this to go through. But Kendall thinks this is his birthright. This is his one sole purpose in life. It gives him purpose. And we see that he's a shell of a man without it. The stakes, you guys, the stakes. But they're all fucked up people, and we got to keep reminding ourselves of that. They're all fucked up, even Shiv. So going into this, I was like, okay, where do we go? Where do we go with this, folks? What do we even want to happen? Because that was the big question. Who will take over Waystar Royco? Who do you want? Do you want Kendall? Do you want Roman? Do you want maybe Tom could do it? Greg is Tom's underling, who is brilliantly played by Nicholas Nicholas Bruin. Sorry, I'm blanking on his name, but he, cousin Greg, they call him, and he's just so funny. And him and Tom just have the best, one of the funnest relationships to watch, because they're the Disgusting Brothers. They titled themselves the Disgusting Brothers, and Tom's Greg's boss and mentor, and it's just a fucked up relationship, but it's so fun. But they were like, okay, who's going to do it? And then I realized like halfway through the week, I've been thinking about it all week since last Sunday of like last episode. I knew it was an hour and a half episode. So I was like, okay. Um, and then I realized, well, you know what? I really don't care. I mean, I don't, in my heart of hearts, I thought Kendall. I wanted Kendall. I wanted Jeremy Strong's character um, because I really didn't think he had purpose. This is what he wanted. He was a broken man. He is a broken man. And if he didn't have this, he would just continue to be broken for the rest of his life. Because in my head, I think Roman didn't want it. And Roman, they were still going to make billions of dollars. So Roman was going to be set up for the rest of his life. And Shiv was going to be a mother. Shiv also is insanely talented in all of these other and if it was Kendall said you can have ATN, you can be the head of that. Roman would do the social media stuff, and everybody supposedly would have a role. But there's only one head. There's only one head of the company, their dad's role, and that was the thing that they all couldn't. It was the bauble. Roman said the bauble. It was just a bauble, but they all wanted that pricey, expensive, beautiful bauble. And it's just amazing, the first part of this episode, because we find out that Alexander Skarsgård's billionaire character that's taking over, that he doesn't want Sarah Snook anymore as the CEO. There's a article that's written that says Sarah Snook, that Shiv is the puppet master, and puppet mastering Alexander Skarsgård, and you can tell he takes personal offense to that. But then there's a dinner between him and Tom, a vibe meet, because Tom's afraid he's going to be fired as the head of ATN, and he wants to stay on. And Alexander Skarsgård's like, listen, let me talk to you. He has this kind of accent that I can't do at all. He says, listen, with Shiv, I don't know. He's like, there's a thing where clickety clickety. Sometimes I think I want to fuck her. And if I'm not mistaken, I think at times I think she could fuck me too. I think she would fuck me too. And he's talking to her husband, and then she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable." And Tom, being the heel kiss ass he is like, "No, we're men, we're men." And he's like, "So I think I'm kind of screwed up in the head about that. So what if I don't have that lady, but what if I get the man that put the baby in her?" And Tom realizes that he's like, "Me? You're talking about me? You want me to be the head?" And he's like, "Yeah, I can do that." These people all backstab each other every episode. It's like, I could definitely do that. I could definitely do that. And he's like, okay then. Now, Greg, Tom has been telling Greg, like, dude, you're going to be fired. They fucking hate you. Like, he just always like bullies the shit out of Greg for some reason. And he's like, Greg, we're going to be okay. He's like, you're going to take a huge pay cut, but you're going to be okay. But he doesn't let Greg know that he's the guy. He just says, we're going to be okay. So then they're at the bar doing shots, celebrating with Alexander Skarsgård's, a couple of people. And Greg is smart enough to get a phone app where it translates. I think there's the Swedes, right? Their dialogue, and they're talking about how are you going to let Shiv know that it's not her. And so he runs to the bathroom. He doesn't run to Tom. He runs to the bathroom and he calls Kendall, who is now went to find Roman, and Roman like completely shit the bed at the funeral. Like I said, had like a breakdown and is now at his mom's place in like Bibini, or I don't know, some like Aruba, Antigua. I don't know. They're all there. Shiv went there. And so it's like all the kids now are in one location. Shiv and Kendall hate each other. They're there just for Roman, but also Kendall wants Roman to vote with him, so needs Roman. And Shiv thinks she's got this all locked up, so she's sitting pretty. And Greg calls Kendall and is like, "Hey, I've got life-changing news. I'm moving planets here. I have news, but if I give this news to you, I need something great from you. Can you give me something great?" And he says it in this beautiful way, because he's like this nervous, nerdy kid, but he's like, if I give you something good, will you give me something amazing? And Kendall's like, take your shot. And he gives him that information that they are looking for another American CEO that is not Shiv. But also Greg says, can you win? If I give this, can you promise you'll win? Because his then future of his career would depend on them winning. And so he goes and tells Roman, Kieran Culkin, and says, we got to tell Shiv. And they tell Shiv, and Shiv's like, bullshit. And it's like, no, he fucked you. Alexander Skarsgård fucked you. It's not you anymore. In fact, they took your name off the PR statement in announcing the merge. And she finds out this is true. You won't, Skarsgård won't answer her call, and she freaks out when realizes this is true. And then Shiv always is led by anger, and Shiv's like, just you can see the fire in her eyes, you guys. And she's like, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing? Let's go. And they have to like figure this out. So they have the votes potentially, but they have to provide a strong structural plan to the board to say why it's good for them to take over the reins of their dad's company. And now they have to decide who's going to be the head of this. And so Kendall's like, it's got to be me. It's me, you guys. It's me. And Roman's like, oh, fuck this. Are you kidding me? And she's like, why's it got to be you? And it's like, well, we can't give it to you. You just were in bed with Skarsgård's character. You're doing this. Like, it's me. It's got to be me. And he's fighting for this. This is his purpose. And you can tell he wants it. You can taste it. And they're not happy, but they're like finally like, fine. And then they have these two beautiful scenes, one in the ocean where they're, Roman and Shiv have this conversation if they can actually give it to their brother Kendall, while Kendall swims away to a dock, and they have this conversation and they decide they can. And they're like, well, we could kill him. They're like, it's very sloppy if we kill him. And if we fuck up, then, it's very funny. It's very sibling-like. And they swim out to him and said, it's you. You can have the bauble. And then they have this beautiful scene in the kitchen at their mom's place where they are just having food fights. They make this like shake fit for a king that's full of like just horrific things, and they pour it over Jeremy Strong's head. And you see Jeremy Strong when he has that nerdy smile, and it's like that Kindle smile of like, you can tell he has pure joy, which is nice because he's so fucking miserable the entire series. And you're like, okay, family together on one page. And they're like, let's go to this fucking boardroom. We got the votes. And I'm in there. I'm like, yeah. Because I'm like, oh, wow. It's like a happy ending. Everybody's happy. Everybody's on the same page. I'm like, what? But you remember this is television. And you remember, this is good television. And good television, they don't take the easy road, the easy way out. They don't do satisfying, right? And then I realized, oh shit, there's 30 more minutes. Like, why are there 30 more minutes like that? And then I was like, wait a sec, this can't be it. Because even if you go by usual play structure or dramatic structure, that you're at the third act arc, so something else has got to happen to actually jam us into that fourth act. And so they're there, they're for the vote, the board meeting. Tom lets Shiv know that it's him that's going to be taking over. So Shiv's even angrier now. And at this point, Tom has found out that Greg was the leak and has this really insane scene in like a tiny bathroom at Logan's old place where they're there to like pick out what they want in the house because Alan Ruck is taking the house and giving away his stuff. So all the kids are there to put stickers on like artifacts that they want in their place. And he hits Greg, and Craig smacks him. He smacks Greg. Greg smacks him back. And it's like this really intense scene because we haven't seen them get this serious before. And he's like, you fucked me. You fucked me. Because remember, Tom's not from an insanely rich family. This is Tom's dream. And it's about to fall out of his grip. This is Shakespearean, you guys. So now Tom lets Alexander Skarsgård, and they're like, oh God, we gotta go, work the phones. And it's like this big final moment of like, they're gonna go down. I mean, the happy ending would potentially be Kendall getting it, but the other siblings on board, Sarah Snook and Kieran Culkin. I love that I'm just retelling you the story, but I've got to. I wanted to talk about it with somebody, so I hope that's okay that it's you guys. So they get to this final thing. They're going around doing the vote. So like yay vote to let the acquisition go through, or a nay vote that we're not going to let it go through and Kendall is going to take over. Now, there's also some really beautiful work in there where Kieran Culkin has stitches because he got beat up in the episode before. And Kendall, there's this intense scene where Roman is like, I could do this. I could, he's, I think, having some second thoughts. Like, I could do this. But Roman's just fucked up. The dad has fucked up all of these kids, but Roman, I feel, in a very weird, specific way. And he's like, I could do this. And Jeremy Strong like hugs him, but also hugs him and so tight where he breaks his stitches on his face to like even kind of make him look a little more fucked up, where he couldn't go in there and look cool enough to take over the company. It was a really dark scene. So they get in there and they're going around the table, and it gets to Roman and he's like, but he says no, he goes with his brother. And so we have one vote. We have Shiv, the last vote, the winning vote. And it's in the bag. And we have a pause. Shiv's hesitating. And I'm like, what? And Jeremy Strong's like, Shiv. And Shiv's like, I just need a minute. And gets up and goes into this other room across from this meeting. And Roman and Kendall immediately go in there. And Kendall's like, what the fuck? She's like, you can't do it. It can't be you. It can't be you. No. This isn't right. You can't do it. And completely goes back on everything. At the last final moment, it was right there. It says, you can't do it. And then you guys, they start saying the worst fucking things about each other at all times. She's like, you killed a kid. Brings up one of his lowest moments that he revealed to his brother and sister about this in one of the beautifulest scenes last season. It's like, you killed a kid. You can't do this. Brings this up. And Kendall goes, no, I was lying. I didn't do that. No, I didn't. Of course I didn't do that. Saying anything, trying to every tactic. And Roman now is like, yeah, fuck it. It can't be you. You're crazy. And then they start talking about the bloodline, the natural bloodline of this family. And they say, well, it's got to be Shiv. Shiv's pregnant with a boy. That's the natural bloodline. Your two kids, Kendall, they're toss-offs because he has adopted children, which is one of the rudest fucking things. But this Roman has said even worse. This Roman is, we love these characters, but remember, they're pieces of shit. They're rich kid, billionaire pieces of shit that we really don't, and just awful things. And Kendall's like, you can't, guys. I will die if you don't give this to me. Please. And he's like, I'm the eldest boy, which is such a wild line because boy has been used multiple times in this show to great effect, usually said by Brian Cox's character, Logan. He's like, I'm the eldest boy. And it's like the shout of a child in like a 45-year-old man's body. I'm the eldest boy. It goes to me. It's mine. And Shiv doesn't vote with Kendall. Shiv votes to go the other way. Now, the good news is they all, still get to make billions of dollars. But Alexander Skarsgård wins. Tom is the head of Waystar Royco. And we're crushed as an audience. But I would ask you to think about your feelings of being crushed. Why are you crushed necessarily? Because I kept asking myself, why was I crushed? And I think it was because I wanted somewhat of a happy ending. I needed somewhat of a happy ending. Now, this wasn't like the end of The Sopranos where it just cuts to black and you're like, what the fuck was that? No, this was narratively laid out. Dramaturgically, it makes sense, as Jeremy Strong would say. But there was something heartbreaking because it was the most unsatisfying, satisfying finales of a television show I've ever seen. And only when we reflect on it can we maybe make some peace with it. And I know you're like, silly, but by the way, if you're listening, you don't think it's silly because you're right there with me. But I realize, Kim, people are dying. I realize the real world. I realize my own real world. But these are escape. This is escapism, which, man, what a painful escape, right? But life isn't usually sewn up just easily, right? Like life doesn't just, that part fits into that part and that's like the perfect ending. Life isn't like that. We all know that. And you get to a certain age, you'll know that too if you don't. Life doesn't normally work like that. So if they're writing these writers, Jesse Armstrong and his brilliant writers, they've got to do what works. And you've got to remember these are all messes of human beings. They're all messes. They're all just kids fighting for their dad's attention still. And everything that has led up to that moment would let us know that this wouldn't end well. And it didn't. But I think when you have such strong performances, that also is why it broke my heart, because I was like, oh, Kendall's dead. Kendall will probably just kill himself. Jeremy Strong. Like, you see him walk out and he goes to the elevator, and part of me was like, is he hitting the top floor? Like, I was looking at the button and it wasn't the top floor, because like, he's gonna go up, just jump. In fact, there's a scene at the where they're all signing Alexander Skarsgård. They make Roman go in and sign pictures, or sign the thing and take a picture, even though he doesn't want to. He's like, fine, okay, fine. Everybody's like, yay, big merger, and Tom's there, and everybody's glad handing, and it has like the beautiful New York scape in the background. And I shit you not, I was like, oh my God, you're going to see Kendall's body just drop while they're taking a picture. Thank God it didn't, but it was so real to me, that pain that was on Jeremy Strong's face, that I was like, he's going to kill himself, period. So he walks out, and Tom tells Shiv, which they are not in a great position, but Tom says, listen, I'm going to be in the car in 20 minutes and get here if you want to go with me. And Greg is now shit the bed, because he is Judas, as he's being called, made the wrong decision. And I will say, another moment I got tearful for is that Tom, now the head of all of this, tells Greg, Greg is like, okay, well, hey, congratulations. I just wanted to shake your hand. And they had this fight in the bathroom. And he's like, what are you thinking? Who goes? And he's like, Jerry's the lady that Roman had a hard on for. It's like, well, Jerry will stay. She knows her way around the darkness. She knows her way around darkness. And then Carl and Frank are like, nope, they're gone. And then Tom's like, you fucked it. Mattson, who's Alexander Skarsgård, Mattson hates you, but I got you. And you don't know how exactly he says it as I got you. And I'm like, you can interpret that as I got you, like I got your number, dude. Or I got you. I got you. I've got you. I'll take care of you. Because in the second episode of the first season, when he first meets Cousin Greg, he says, hey, if let me know, if you need help. And he says, I got you, in that scene. And it was the beginning of their relationship. So this comes full circle, and it's actually quite satisfying. And he's like, I got you. He goes, I got just enough capital where I can keep you. And you realize he's going to keep Greg. He's going to let Greg keep Gregging for him. And I thought it was beautiful, because I think he also needs Greg. Greg is his friend, even though also he sees, I think, a lot of himself in that, and that he took a big swing and he missed. But he also is that thing of also like, keep your enemies close. But also I think he sees something in Greg that he likes. They speak a similar disgusting brother language. And that was the thing where like, oh, okay, well, at least Greg is okay. But billionaires are assholes. So these are all horrible people. So then you go to the car, and Tom is in the car. He is now anointed. This is kind of a little bit, did it remind you a little bit of The Godfather Part 1 at the very end, when Al Pacino has taken over for Marlon Brando, and Diane Keaton is like, are you a criminal? What is going on? And it's like, of course, Kay, I'm not a criminal. Of course I'm not. No, I'm not at all. There's all lies. And then you see Al Pacino in a far shot, in like sitting down, I think. And, mafia henchmen are like going up to him, and then shuts the door, and Kay's looking in, and you realize this guy is the head of the family. And Tom is now the head of this family. And he gets in the car, Shiv's in the car, and you can tell Shiv, it's just very uncomfortable. And to me, this was very Shakespeare. It is very Shakespeare. It's something. Tom puts his hand out open for like, take my hand. They're in the backseat of this chauffeured car. And she waits a second, and she puts her hand on his hand, not clutching his hand, not hand holding, but just barely on top of the hand. So she's there. She's not really there. And you already picture what that life's going to be like. And of course, we now visit Jeremy Strong, Kendall has his dad's old driver, which his dad's old chauffeur turned out to be his dad's only real friend, now works for Kindle, and Kindle is just walking near the water in New York City, and he's just staring off into the water. And there's so much water symbolism in this show, especially with Kindle. Almost died in the water, crashed his car in the water. All of these water, like big water symbols with Kindle in this whole show. But he's just staring off despondent. And that's where it ends. Why can't life be happy? Why can't we just have this one thing? I wanted a big celebration and we didn't get it, but this is more truthful. Now, Jesse Armstrong, the creator of Succession, they have a little featurette that I highly recommend after the credits called Controlling the Narrative. They've had it all season. And I just find it fascinating because they're working at such a high level. Now, Mark Mylod is the director. He's directed a lot of the Succession episodes. He's brilliant as well. He also directed the movie The Menu that was out last year with Ray Fiennes. So good. Very dark and disturbing, a little Black Mirror-ish. But they're talking about this because they're saying in the writer's room, we knew if he was, the dad was going to die, where would this realistically go? Now, it is hard because he was talking about where they all went. Oh, it was, sorry. Also, Roman, Kieran Culkin, he ends with he orders a martini at this bar sitting by himself, which is Jerry's drink, by the way. And he just kind of smiles. And because he tells Kindle in that scene where it all goes to shit, he's like, we're all shit. This doesn't mean shit. We're all shit. None of it means anything because it doesn't. Their lives were ruined by their father a long time ago. But the creator, Jesse Armstrong, is talking in this about just about how it all ends. And what I keep thinking about was he was talking about Kindle, and he said for Kindle, and he's doing this very astute British accent, which you love. DJ James Kennedy wrote Succession. They're all poo-poo heads, yeah. Worms with mustaches, all of them, fat fuck. No. He says for Kindle, most likely this will be the main event of his life. He will never, ever be as powerful as his father. He had this one little chance. He will never now at this point. And he says, he maybe will run another company or he'll do a thing. He actually uses that word, or he'll do a thing. Because remember, they're all billionaires. But this will be the one moment in his life that will haunt him for the rest of his life. Oh, you guys, that took my breath away. Because those moments that we're haunted with in our life that don't seem to really go away just crushed me. And they said with Shiv, there was this really interesting argument of like girl bossing and all this stuff. I'm like, Shiv's a piece of shit too. I know we all like Shiv and like, yay, up with women, but Shiv, she was all over the place. Are you kidding me? She was just as bad as her brothers were. It just more a palatable form. No. And Shiv, it was very confusing though. I was like, wow, it was like the battle between the two evils. And she took the petty approach of it. I just can't let my brother have this. I'm sorry, you might disagree with me, but it was like now Tom is the leader. She still is in the game, I guess, because Tom's the head of everything. She could potentially still be maybe the head of ATN, but Mattson wants to fuck her, kind of like just totally fucked her over. Now Tom has one over on her a little bit. And the creator said, they'll never probably have an emotional, fulfilling life because they've said the worst things that you could possibly say to each other already. They'll never fully be able to trust again in the way that you would want to in a relationship. So that's all. And by the way, who knows? Even the actor Matthew McFadden, who plays Tom, said, listen, maybe a week after this, they completely split up again. Who knows? But the actor said also, because asked by Kate Arthur, who interviewed him, I love Kate Arthur. Kate Arthur did also the Amazing Variety Vanderpump Rules article we talked about last week or the week before. Time means nothing. We said, oh, where do you think Tom and Shiv are? And he's like, I don't. My run with the character, it ends there. Like he was like, no, I don't even imagine that. I don't even imagine into the future. Why? My arc of this character is done. I don't want to even, he wasn't being rude, but he's like, no, I don't even think about it. I don't want it. Now, obviously, this is really fascinating. TikTok, these TikTok detectives out there, they are scary. There was this lady on TikTok that had a theory about Tom Wamsgans, that's his last name, and because there was the last name of Wamsgan, it's Wambsgans. There was a theory going around last week that there is actually that he was going to take over the head of this company, and it was predicted by his last name, by the character's last name, because there was a 1920s baseball player. This sounds insane. This lady did a full TikTok. It was like fascinating. She said there was a 1920s Major League Baseball player named Bill Wamsgans, whose last name was almost exactly matched the last name to Tom Wamsgans, except for Bill had an extra S. So Bill, the baseball player, spent 13 seasons in the major leagues and recorded 1,359 hits, but he's best known for completing the only unassisted triple play in World Series history. While the Cleveland Indians in 1920, Wamsgans caught a line drive for 1 out, stepped on second base for the 2nd out, and tagged a runner for the 3rd out. He took out 3 players at once, and Cleveland would later win the series over the Brooklyn Robins. This almost makes sports sound exciting to me. So Tom, with Lucas Matson, the billionaire played by Alexander Skarsgård, with Gojo, he took out 3 siblings. He took out Shiv, Roman, and Kendall, and he was, and by the way, the creators today said, no, that is not why we named that character that. They were like, no, that nothing to do with that. So they're saying there's no truth that this did not predict the end of Succession, even though it did. Isn't the world wacky? Like, are you kidding me? This is just a coincidence? Wow. We must be living in a simulation, because that is wild. Because he really did take out 3 players with 1 play. And that is what Tom Wamsgans did. So I thought you would find that interesting. But I just keep thinking overall of just, it's, don't be sad that it's over. Be happy that it happened in the first place. And when people are working at this high of a level, it means other people can work at this high of a level. That if you like this, there's going to be something else that you love just as much, or potentially even more. We just don't know it yet. And we want to stay in that place. We want to stay in that love of this show. We've had this with shows before. Like I said, The Sopranos earlier. You had Mad Men. You had Six Feet Under. You had Sex in the City. It's just so many amazing television shows. Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul. So many. And there'll be so many more to come, but it's hard because as you get older, it's harder to give your heart out, not just to people, but to television shows, to new characters. And when you find something that you love, you want it to be there forever, right? And of course you say, well, that's what streaming is for. We have this show forever, and we do. But it's not really about who took over the head spot and, what happened and how it all unfolded. It's that it happened at all. And that we got to see just some of the most amazing work of all time. And hopefully that inspires more amazing work. There could be some girl or guy, little kid out there, that saw this show in junior high, and it inspires them to make an even amazing, like a bigger, better show down the line. What's sad though is that, for some of these actors, we see it with film and television all the time, is that, John Hamm, he's in movies and TV, and we all know and love John Hamm, but he'll potentially never have that role that he had in Mad Men ever again. The head of, everybody looked to him for that couple of years that he did Mad Men. And so you want these people because you're like, oh, I need to see Sarah Snook in something else. But then, when you see Sarah Snook, you're going to still think of Shiv. And it's going to be hard to let another character in there. Now, there have been, times where that has worked. I mentioned 6 Feet Under. You had Michael C. Hall, who played one of the brothers amazingly in 6 Feet Under. And then he went on to do Dexter, which we loved just as much. But those are rare. Even think about Seinfeld. Julia Louis-Dreyfus. Wow, she went on. Veep. Are you kidding me? Always do amazing work. Where's Michael Richards? So it's kind of like this sad, not bitter, but there's a sad farewell element to it because these things make you realize that your heart feels something, that you can get excited about something, that we can celebrate something. What did you guys think? Were you mad about this? I saw a lot of things like, how dare you? This is trash. How would you ever think this was trash? Because it was the same amazing writing. It just didn't go the way you wanted it to go, but it makes sense structurally. It makes sense. But it's just sad because these aren't happy endings. But life doesn't have a lot of happy endings. Like my mom says, none of us get out of here alive. It's just that I think we want to freeze these moments and encase them in some sort of amber so they're always there. You always have them to look, to know that it's there. And I think in my mind, I've not shut that show off. So in my mind, I'm still thinking Kendall's out there in pain right now, you guys. Kendall's out there in pain. We need to help this dude because he's not going to ever get back on track. Yeah. So that was Succession. Now, in terms of, sorry, I'm on a text thread with all of the girls that are like Amy, Maritza, Marissa, Sandra. They're sending me something about Tom Sandoval's show. Some girl got kicked out. I think this is maybe Demois. For anyone thinking about going to Tom Sandoval's shows, since they're giving away tickets now, please be careful. This is a first-person account. I just got kicked out of Sandoval's show for being Team Ariana. I had a sign that was ripped out of my hand by security. It said "poo-poo head." You're kidding. Get that, dude. You won't be doing a poo-poo head sign at this concert, dude. This is rock and roll. And then was kicked out closer to the end of the show because the crowd was thinning out and becoming less about him and more Ariana. The security guard grabbed my phone while it was recording. He had previously told us that they were paid by Tom, and he gave me multiple warnings. The bald guy needs exposed. He took countless women out by their arms and threatened to punch me. I have more. Please post. Maybe this is Bravo and Cocktails. I'm not sure who this is, but damn, that sounds wow. Listen, man, Tom, do not have people be physically violent with the audience just because they're Team Ariana. That is not going to. Oh my God, we've only got a day and a half more before the next Vanderpump Rules. I'm going to end it here, even though I have like 30 other stories to tell you. I needed that. Thank you guys for letting me do that. I wanted to talk about Succession, and I wanted to talk about Tina Turner and even Summer House. Also, let me see. I watched the premiere of Real Housewives of Orange County today. Tamara's back, and they make you very aware she's back within the first minute. I have a lot of stuff I want to say about Real Housewives of Orange County, but I have a gag order until when it airs, I think June 7th. But it was good to see everybody back. I'll talk about it more, but I did watch it today. I also wanted to talk about Bethany Frankel's new YouTube show, because Bethany Frankel has a YouTube show because she just can't stop. I wanted to talk about Britney Spears. Britney Spears' mom, Lynn. They had Lynn went and visited her, and Britney allowed it. And then Britney did an Instagram post saying that, that they had a really nice meeting and that it was really good. And I thought that was positive I thought it was positive in a lot of ways. I'm trying to find this post right now. I hope she didn't take it down. Well, now I'm just staring at a picture of Britney's boobs, reposting a pic I did last year live. Okay. Oh my gosh, did she take down the post? Only shoot. Oh no, did she take down the post? Oh, that's not good. Okay, here we go. Whew. This was 4 days ago, and it's a picture of Britney and her as a kid in her ballerina outfit. She says, "My sweet mama showed up at my doorstep yesterday after 3 years. It's been such a long time. With family, there's always things that need to be worked out, but time heals all wounds. And after being able to communicate what I've held in for an extremely long time, I feel so blessed we were able to try to make things right. I love you so much. P.S. I'm so blessed we can have coffee together after 14 years. Let's go shopping afterwards." Well, that was really nice. I'm glad for that. And just that's an example too, is that forgiveness can happen. Like, we don't know Britney's whole story, obviously, and Britney obviously is going through things and will be for potentially the rest of her life. But forgiveness is something we should all work towards. I mean, even in a couple of years with Tom Sandoval, but it's not going to work if he's having bouncers be violent with people wearing Team Ariana shit. Give me a break. But forgiveness is something that we have to remember is out there. And I don't know if I trust Britney Spears' family, but if Britney's happy, that makes me happy. And it's nice to see a positive post. Of course, like I said, the first post I just opened to was a shot of her boobs from last year. But hey, you know what? It's her Instagram account, is what I keep telling myself, and what I will keep telling myself, because it's not my business at the end of the day. I watched the Bama Rush documentary on HBO Max or Max, and I did not like it. I thought it was not great. The director starts making it about herself because she went through the Bama Rush or sorority rush. And Bama Rush was a very interesting thing that, kind of exploded on TikTok and social media, how seriously they take these, rushes to get into a sorority. So I thought it was going to be a very fun, lively documentary, and it was not that. It was decent. I mean, it wasn't seen way worse, but just the narrative got completely away from the director, which I felt bad about because I was like, oh, I think she even knows the narrative's completely gone, and it just really didn't pack the punch that you wanted it to. The trailer was great. The poster looked great. The overall product, not great. And that made me I was bummed out about that. I wanted to like that. And then Lisa Rinner, I'll do that tomorrow. You guys, on Wednesday's episode, we have Miss Katie Maloney joining us from Vanderpump Rules. I talked with her on Friday, so I'm going to be releasing that. That'll be your great warm-up for the reunion part 2 of Vanderpump Rules. Thank you, guys. I can't believe I did 2 hours. I have not gotten up, and I need a pee so bad, and I need a sip of water. But you guys, we did it. I hope you enjoy this. I hope you like when I do these things. I hope you did. Let me know if you enjoyed this or not, because I'm nervous that it was a solo show. Okay. Bye, guys. Love you.